How's it going, everyone? My name is Draelik. Welcome to the channel. This is my first YouTube video I'm ever doing, and it is about Arcane. Um, the reason I'm doing it about Arcane is because I'm very passionate about it. I can't stop thinking about it. I stopped watching it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and pretty much every day I still think about it. So this is kind of an overview of it. Now, there's really two reasons you clicked on this video. One, someone told you about Arcane, you're wondering, should I watch it? And the other is you've gone and watched Arcane, you've seen everything, and now you're down the rabbit hole of watching anything that's related to Arcane, which is, I'm in that party myself. I've seen like 30 or 40 reaction channels. I view anything Arcane related. So if you can't tell, I love the series. I think it's definitely worth watching, but I'm going to get a little bit more in depth into that and why. I'm not going to get crazy. I'm not going to go super into detail like some of these people. It's not going to be like a 3-hour video looking at every little frame. I'm just going to talk, I'm just going to talk about what I like and what I don't like. I'm going to split the video up into two separate parts. The first part's just going to be kind of a basic overview. No spoilers, right? No major stuff. Everything that I talk about will either be completely no spoilers or something that like you find out in the first episode. It's something that's not a big deal. And then the second part, I'll get a little bit more into detail, a little bit more in depth, and I'll kind of just freely talk about my overall experience of what I thought. And within that will probably be specific spoilers. So I'm sure I'll make it apparent, when the spoilers are happening. That being said, I guess let's get into it. If you don't know, it's based off the world of League of Legends. And if you don't know what League of Legends is, it's a video game that's been out for like 10 plus years, 15 years. I don't know. It's been out for a while. It's very popular, has a huge esports scene. And right off the bat, I'm going to stop and kind of explain some things. First, when I say that, I think a lot of people get turned away because they hear it's based off a video game and they think, well, I don't play the video game, so why would I watch something that's based off a video game? I don't believe you need to know anything about League of Legends. I myself know very little. I only dabbled in League of Legends after I watched Arcane. Thankfully, I did not get addicted because I know that whole community is pretty toxic, but it wasn't really for me. But I did play some TFT, which is like a branching game off of League of Legends. It's like a strategy game. I played it like maybe 30 or 40 times over the past 5 years. Not a lot. So, but I still did recognize some of the characters, just their names, right? But I don't think you need to know that. I don't think you need to know any of the characters. You can very much enjoy the series without knowing anything, to be honest. I think, and some people are making the point I've seen in like the comments where people are talking about like sometimes it makes it even more enjoyable not knowing anything because you don't know how the characters end up. You don't know what they really look like. There's characters throughout the series that go from one point and they drastically alter from the end where you would not even recognize them or know who they are by the end of the series. So I think people that know League of Legends kind of knew what the outcome would be or kind of how they would progress in some fashion. But even that, even if you do play League of Legends and somehow you have not seen Arcane, I don't think that would ruin your experience either way. They do a fantastic job at telling the whole story, all the details. It's very easy to gather. I don't think everything is spoon-fed, which is a good thing. It's not super generic. There's complexity within the story, and but it's a very well-balanced story. The second part is anytime someone hears that it's based off a video game and that it's an animated series, people get turned off by that quickly. I don't know why. I think people have this like shtick where they hear that something is animated, then they think cartoon or anime or whatever, and they're just like, yeah, that's not for me. I don't get that. I think people should be much more open-minded to media intake in general. And I think this is a great example. This is not something that is for like little kids. I think it deals with a lot of real world things. There's like drug use, there's murder, there's kind of like oppression and all this other stuff that I'm sure you could dive deep into. It's definitely more geared towards adult style things. There are very adult things within the series. There is gore, there is murder, there is sexual scenes, which I would also, I guess, suggest, depending on how comfortable you are with your family, there are a few scenes that would be kind of uncomfortable with like your whole family sitting and watching it. Especially, I would say in season 2, there's some stuff that you're just like, oh, okay, didn't know we were going here. So yeah, just be forewarned. There are some things like that. So it's definitely geared towards more of an adult audience. I think anything like teenager and above would very much get everything that's happening or pick up on most of the details. But just take that into consideration. I don't think just because it's animated, it's some kid show thing. A lot of people feel that way, and I don't agree with that take at all. But that's your opinion, I guess. So where does it take place? It takes place in the city of Piltover. Piltover itself is split up into 2 different categories. You have Topside, which is one side of the bridge. It's the richy rich, you know, people are doing much better off. You have the council, you have the people making the really important decisions for the entire city. And you have the enforcers. The enforcers are kind of the security detail that help protect the city. Then you have the Undercity. The Undercity has like 3 or 4 different nicknames. The Undercity, Zon, the Lanes. It goes by a couple different names. That's the other side of the bridge, and most of it's kind of underground, so it's not hard to pick up on where you're at when you're watching. And it kind of feels like the slums. It's, you know, people are kind of poor, scrounging for coin, kind of like a black market type vibe to it. A lot of that is what drives the story, the differences between the Undercity and Topside. It's not everything, though. The other big driving point is the invention of Hex Tech. Now, Hex Tech is what is fueling the whole drive for technology within the world of Piltover. Piltover gets their hands on this technology, and there's a lot of conversation on what they want to do with it. And Hex Tech itself is basically science that is trying to get a grasp on magic and being able to use it and make it functional and safe. But there's also people that want to make it weaponized, and, you know, there's a bunch of feuds going along with that as well. So it's really interesting. The story is kind of told from like a Game of Thrones aspect, where you have the main characters, right? Like in Game of Thrones, you would say the Starks are kind of the main characters, right? In this, you have Vi and Powder. They're the main characters, but you also have these other significant roles that I would also consider the main characters, right? You have people like Jace, Mel, and then you have antagonists. You know, you get the whole role, but there's the way they split up the episode. It's not just, oh, you have these 2 characters, that's all you're going to see this whole character or the whole episode. It kind of goes from point of view to point of view, and they've altered greatly in where they stand, right? You have Vi and Powder. They're kind of the very basic crowd from the Undercity trying to make a name for themselves. Then you have people like Vander, who kind of run the underground. Then you have like the basic people from Piltover, like the Enforcer, like just a normal soldier, like Caitlyn. And then you have people on the High Council, like Mel and Heimerdinger. And there's other characters too. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you could see you have people from the very top and people from the very low and all in between, and it all meshes well. What I really love about the show is no matter who is on screen, it is very interesting. A lot of other shows, it'll pan to some other character and you're like, I don't care. Get back to the main people. This isn't one of those shows. I really think every single character is interesting, and you want to see where their story takes them, because it's very different stuff. Every character is dealing with very different things. Let's just talk about without spoiling, what I absolutely love about this show. You have the visuals. The visuals are absolutely stunning. They are done by a company called Fortiche. It's a French company. They use 3D and 2D effects. It is absolutely mind-blowing. There is nothing that looks like it. I don't know what... It is its own unique thing, which I love. I love when something can be unique. It's so hard these days to see something that you've never seen before. And when it comes to animation, I think that's the best feel to still see and watch something new that you've never seen before. And this is a perfect example of it. If I had to pin it to like something, it's like a weird mix of Into the Spider-Verse, and if anyone knows the band Gorillaz, back in the, well, I'm sure they're still around. I think they released a song a couple years ago, or maybe sooner. I don't know. I kind of lost track with them, but Gorillaz used to do animated music videos for their music, and their style is a little bit reminiscent of what it looks like, but this is so refined. It is so artistic. The amount of detail is absolutely insane. And I'll kind of get into that on my second part of the video, where I'll actually dive a little bit into specific details that just kind of blew me away. But it is so unbelievably well done. It looks incredible. There's a lot of fight scenes. Every fight scene has a bomb soundtrack. Everything, it sounds amazing in the show. Every single soundtrack is top notch. It sounds really good. There is a series called Bridging the Rift about the behind the scenes about Arcane. It is a must watch. The documentary itself could probably win an award. It shows just how much hard work and dedication from all these different people and different people from different companies, how they all came together to make what is Arcane, and how it almost failed like a bunch of different times. It's not something that took a short amount of time. It took 9 years to make. They've been working on it, and you can feel every single one of those seconds. It took $250 million for both seasons. You can feel every cent to the dollar that was spent and used within the show. It really feels very real in a sense. It is awesome. The characters are all dope. I don't really have a problem with any of the characters. They all fit into the world nice. I like a lot of the characters when they're on screen. They're very intriguing. Some are more complex than others, but then there's some characters that I swear to God, every single line they say is an absolute bar. It could probably be a tattoo. But yeah, I've been babbling a little bit here. I didn't really want to make this too long. So I'm about to get into my spoilers. If you're looking for the overview, it is a must-watch show. I think it is amazing. I'm not going to give it a rating quite yet, but it's very high. I mostly agree with what's on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. So if you're seeing those ratings, I agree. It's in that ballpark for sure. I think this is for everyone, and yeah. So now we're going to get into the spoiler section. I'm kind of just going to do it like one pro, one con, what I like, what I didn't like. My cons are going to be very specific because there's not a whole lot wrong with the show. I can't think of too many things. There's very specific parts of very specific scenes. I was like, this didn't feel right or whatever. But literally, I don't have an issue at all with season 1. And then season 2, episodes 1 through 7, 0. I had nothing wrong. Literally every complaint I have is within the last 2 episodes. I think it's the 2 weakest episodes of the entire series, which is a little not frustrating, but you're like, And it's not like Game of Thrones. I keep throwing that out there, but Game of Thrones, like season 8 was absolutely atrocious and ruined the story for most people, including myself. I didn't even watch the final episode because the whole rest of the season was that bad, in my opinion. It is not that bad. There's, like I said, it's like 1 or 2 scenes. It's going to sound like I'm harping on it a lot, but I'm not. Or I'm just being critical of something I absolutely love. But Pro 1 is just going kind of back to what I was talking about, sound design and the soundtracks. Every single soundtrack is paired up beautifully with the visuals. It matches everything. I have about 15 songs. I don't even think that's an understatement. added to my playlist. I could sit here and play video games. I could work out to the Arcane playlist. It is that good. I mean, Sucker, Welcome to the Playground, Hellfire, Heavy is the Crown. I can't remember what the song is with Denzel Curry, but that song with Echo and Jinx when they're fighting, that shit is a bop. I mean, literally just about every song is amazing. And again, it pairs so well with the visuals. I was blown away. It's literally like a music video in just about every episode, especially in season 2. And it always hits. It never gets boring. I don't think it gets old. Some people don't like that, but nothing else does that. I've never seen anything do it like Arcane. So I have no issue with it whatsoever. I don't think I've watched something where music has had more of an impact on the story and just what you're feeling since like Baby Driver. Baby Driver's music choice, and just when music would kick in, you're just like, wow, that slapped. That was really good. And then the other thing I want to talk about that I feel like everyone's kind of overseeing and underrating is the music itself. Like the actual score of it took like 4 years to make. And again, that's in that little series, the Bridging the Rift or whatever. It took 4 years to make, and just the first part of episode 1, that violin in the beginning, that already gets like the emotions going. There's no words even being spoken. It's just character emotes, and you're just like, oh, wow, that's really good. And the final soundtrack in season 2, episode 9, when Victor and Jace, like that whole scene where all that shit is flying in, and Victor realizes he's wrong. That's all just the score, I think. I don't think it's a soundtrack. Yeah, the soundtrack is amazing. Sound design is equally amazing. I think the sound in this series is next to none. It's amazing. I mean, every little step feels like it perfect. If it's something heavy, it feels heavy. If it's something light, it feels light. When they're moving a chair, you're like, yep, that's a chair. And all the cool sounds with like the hex tech stuff and the magic all sounds really cool. One of the coolest looking scenes that really hooked me into the show is the opening scene to episode 2, where you have well, you find out later it's Victor doing the whole whirl thing with the magic, and then he saves Jace and his mom. That whole scene, I was like, damn, that looked really good, and it sounded cool. So yeah, the sound design's top notch. Now we're gonna get into the con. This one, I don't know if everyone agrees, but I know I'm not the only one, and I felt this when I first watched it, and I was like, maybe I'm the only one. But then I started seeing comments and other people say it, and I was like, yep, I'm not the only one. This felt weird. And it's a very notorious scene. It's the Kate Vi scene in season 2, episode 8. This scene, to me, does not fit. It's weirdly placed. I think the scene itself makes sense in the fact that like they built up to this moment. The fact that the scene is actually happening makes sense. I'm not opposed to the Kate Vi romance at all. They've built up to it since season 1. Early. What was that, like episode 5? My problem is the when it happens. You have Jinx pouring her heart out to Vi. Vi has, throughout the entire story, fought for Jinx to become Powder once more. She's trying to find her old sister. There were points where they pretty much try to kill each other. What is that, like episode 3? They legit are trying to kill each other at some point. And then Isha really changed that. Jinx starts kind of morphing back to Powder. Not quite, but she's this like weird mix where she's kind of calmed down and isn't batshit crazy anymore. And she's stopped hearing the voices for the most part. She's starting to calm down. And I think Vi realizes that, especially when they get Vander and they're having this kind of like family moment. So you have all these building blocks for Jinx and Vi starting to like reunite. And then Jinx gets captured at the end of episode 6. You don't see it. And then she's in jail. Vi finds out. Jinx is pouring her heart out to her like, hey, after just imagining Silco, she's like, I'm going to go break what does she say? Break the chain or break the cycle? I think she says break the cycle. And the way she says it and what they're talking about before, you can imply a couple things if you're Vi. One, no matter what, she's going to do something drastic to like change up everything. You could take it as she is going to go kill herself, which she goes and does, right? She burns down. I'm pretty sure she burned down the last drop. I can't remember. She burns down something. I'm pretty sure it's the last drop, the bar. And she goes and she tries killing herself with the grenades multiple times, mind you, and then tries falling to her death. And the only reason she's alive is because of Echo. But she does all that. You can apply that as Vi, and then you see that Vi has a reasonable reaction. She starts crying in the jail cell. Kate comes down. I swear to God, she says 3 lines of dialogue, and they start fucking. And it's so weird. It's so weirdly placed. It's like it completely washed over what just happened. Like, I feel like Vi should have done everything in her power to get out and like go try and save Jinx or Powder or whoever, right? And it didn't. It just felt so weird, that scene. And I knew it felt weird, and I was justified because I have not felt that way towards any other scene, right? There's been other scenes where Jinx and Vi and Caitlyn get like romantic with each other, and there's Kate and Maddie, and I never felt there was something that I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm fine with that. That's cool. But that whole scene is just off-putting because of when it happens. I think if they placed it somewhere else, I think it could have worked better, or they built up to it in a certain way. That scene just kind of turned me off. I actually believe that to be my least favorite episode. It's not terrible, right? There's still a lot of good moments within that episode. But yeah, I would say that scene in particular threw me for a loop. I was just like, oh, okay. I was like, this is happening, and I don't really know why, but okay. So yeah, didn't love it, that's for sure. My next pro could be an entire video by itself, and that is the attention to detail. And once again, I'm going to refer back to the Bridging of the Rift series. It is crazy how much detail and how much effort they have put into every single frame of this show. I wrote down, because there's so many, and I'm not going to get into them all. There's just no way. But I wrote down like specific things of like I would have never noticed without other people pointing it out. Just something that I was just like blown away when I saw it, or just weird points that like interact with one another. The first one's kind of funny. I actually haven't even seen anyone talk about this at all, and I don't know if it's even relevant. But in season 1 of episode 5, you have Caitlyn and Vi, and they're in the whorehouse, right? And they're trying to like blend in necessarily, and Caitlyn starts talking to some rando dude that's in there, or person, and Caitlyn right off the bat starts talking about like how her name's Matilda and her family, whatever. And I didn't even catch it when it was happening. I forget how I came across this. It might have been me rewatching it or something, or maybe I was watching a reaction video and I heard it, or they talked about it. I don't remember. But you hear faintly that her family, her made-up family, Matilda's made-up family, comes from a line of pirates. And at the very end of the show, Caitlyn is wearing an eye patch, and I just thought that was kind of a funny detail. I don't know if it was meant to connect at all, but the fact that she was talking about becoming a pirate, and then she has an eye patch at the end, she almost made the transition to her made-up character, Matilda. Matilda. I thought that was funny. So then you have stuff like a lot of the cool details, in my opinion, were the alternate universe episode where you have Jinx and Powder, Jinx and Powder are two different people now. Powder is normal in this world, and Echo is much different as well. But I saw a picture, I want to say on TikTok, and they showed a side-by-side of the hideouts, Powder's hideout. Now, Powder's hideout in this alternate universe is much more stable looking. There's railings everywhere. It's much better lit, and you get the side by side of our verse that we know. There's like no railings. It's super not lit. It looks much more dangerous, and it kind of just perfectly represents like Jinx's stability, her mental stability. Everything's much more safe and grounded in the alternate universe because she is that way. And I just thought that was a really cool detail that I haven't really heard too many people talk about. Then you have the pretty common ones, right? You have the necklace rose, right? That she receives in that same episode. I did not notice when I was watching. One, it's the blue rose, which is supposed to signify like eternal love. That is it. That can't be because a blue rose doesn't exist in nature. But you also have their faces within the necklace. I didn't notice when I was watching. I saw it spinning, and I'm sure if I paid close enough attention, I could see it. But until you like circle it, it's like one of those images. Is like, can you see 3 different pictures in this one picture? I always struggle seeing, like, I get that one point of view, and then I'm stuck. That was kind of how I felt with the necklace. But you do see the faces, and it's kind of cool. And it's just one of the many details. They throw out the esports teams. It's in one of the episodes. I don't know. There's a specific image where it has like all the teams going around like this circle. It almost looks like rune, like scripture. Very cool. So a little shout out to the esports scene. And then you have the glass shattering, right, with Isha, right? Throughout the episodes, you have like her, a lot of times when it shows Jinx looking at glass, it's like her mind, and it's like fragmented because of all the trauma she's gone through. But when she's with Isha, it goes to her heart, pretty much foreshadowing her heart's going to break when Isha eventually, inevitably dies. The last thing I kind of want to point out is the subtleties with other details as well. Like the face and like small noises is so crazy to me. The face interactions and just how they move is so real. It's so good. You have that scene in episode 1 with Milo and Vi, when Vi's like, anytime I make this face, it means shut up. And she's doing like this face, and it's so real. Like, it just felt so well animated. It's so good. I don't know. It's like scratches a weird itch in my brain. I'm just like, yeah, that's it. And then when Jace is talking to Silco, I want to say that's episode 9 of season 1, where they're having that sunset, that beautiful view, and they're talking to each other. And then you see when Jace brings up Jinx, Silco's face just subtly changes to like serious. Like he's getting what he wants, he's hearing what he wants, and then he hears Jinx's name, and it just throws him off. You see it in his face, and I feel like there's so many shows and so many animated things that just would never come across, and it comes across beautifully. Like I get exactly what they were trying to say and do there. And then just a specific sound too, by the way, that I don't think anyone's really talked about, but when Jace falls in season 2 episode 7, when he makes that fall and the hammer crushes his leg and he hits the ground, he lets out that little wheeze of like all the air is leaving his body because he just fell from a ridiculous height and somehow lived. It's just those little details, man. I swear I could go on for 3 days probably talking about all the little crazy intricate details within the show that there's probably stuff coming out every single day that, like, by the way, this frame, if you pause it, you see this. That's another one. The freeze frame on what's her name, Maddie, when she shoots at Kate. If there's an impact frame where she's smiling, and it's crazy, and you would never catch it if you're watching it, but someone paused it, and she has a smiling, and it's supposed to be like Mel seeing her energy or whatever. That's how she truly feels. So Maddie's like this weird evil bitch, which, duh. Let's get to the next con, right? The next con is something that I'm not too sure about, but I'm pretty sure, and it's cut content. I'm pretty sure they cut content throughout the show. Mainly in the last couple episodes, it feels like they cut more content because the pacing going along with the cut content is a lot quicker in the last couple episodes. Characters come to decisions much quicker. They make sense for the most part, but there's some characters that like are going from like they're kind of maybe evil to like, yes, I'm 100% evil, this is what I'm doing. They kind of jump the gun a little bit, so it's a little off-putting, but it's not much. But there's cut content, and if someone actually knows why they cut the content or what the stipulations behind that, I heard it had something to do with money, but I want a little bit better explanation than that. My thought process was the team writing the story, they made the storyboard. They're like, hey, this is everything that we want. And they brought it to the animation team, and the animation team's like, that's cool. We, with the money we have, can only animate this. If you want these other parts in, it's going to cost too much money. We're going to have to cut somewhere. That was my understanding. That's what happened. I don't think that's actually what happened, though. I think they actually animated a bunch of other stuff. And then, I don't know if the parent company, I don't know, Netflix or whoever, they were just like, hey, we can't have an hour-and-a-half episode. That's not going to work. We have to meet some kind of window. You need to cut this out. If that's what happened, I think that's really stupid. I don't understand that. And again, I'm not in that world. I don't know. But you feel the cut content in the last couple episodes. There's characters that make decisions that go much quicker than you would think. There's a lot of stuff with like Jinx and Echo, like reestablishing their connection after they had that interaction in the very final episode. They paint each other and all this stuff. You don't notice it, right? There's no interaction between that first instance and then when they fly in on the airship. You don't see them at all until that moment. And they're painted up with each other's stuff, so it's very much it's very hard to pick up on that they interacted and did that. It's very minor details. So you would have to go back and look at that and you're like, oh yeah, that's that. But there's a whole interaction that's like missing. Supposedly, I don't know if this is true, that Echo explained like, yeah, I went to another universe. This is why I have this time thing. I met you. You were normal. This is the world, that I lived in, and they ended up bonding and becoming close. And we miss all of that. And I think it would have made much more of an impact and made a little bit more sense of why certain things happen. Even some of Jinx's lines in the final episode, like the line she uses when she dies. Like, I'll be your sister even worlds apart, or something like that. It didn't hit me quite as hard. The hardest hitting death in the entire show was Isha, and it's not even close to me. And then maybe Soko or Vander. Jinx's death didn't hit me for some reason because the line that she used and just that whole situation. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. That's my final con, is the epilogue, the very ending. It just didn't. It felt very generic and like it was the only part of the show that I felt was kind of lazily written. It didn't hit for me. But again, I think that kind of goes back to cut content and weird pacing for some of these characters. And I watched Critical's review, and I totally agree with him on Ambessa. Ambessa, the last 2 episodes makes no sense. I don't understand her decision-making at all. And I also think she's irrelevant. I think if the Noxian army and the Piltover army teamed up, I think Victor's super soldiers still win. None of them were stopping him. It took Jace and Mel combined to barely kill one. I don't think those, especially with Warwick version of Victor Soldier, I just don't see that happening at all. I think they still blow through and get exactly what happened anyway. And Ambessa's like reasons for doing things becomes very skewed and just like odd. I thought she was just almost becoming evil to become evil. Yeah, it didn't quite come off that way, but I still love her character. I thought she was dope. She was badass. I love her design. But there were just some decisions and the way she went about things in the last 2 episodes, for me, made little sense. The last thing I want to talk about is the character depth. This kind of goes back to details, but just how the characters the character development is crazy, right? You have Powder, then she becomes Jinx. She becomes this like kind of not evil character. She's just mentally unstable, and then she starts stabilizing out towards the very end, and then she has Isha die, and then she becomes like emotionally disturbed, but somehow still more grounded. You have Jace becoming like this good-hearted individual, and he's still good-hearted to the very end, but he's kind of like afraid to make certain decisions, and by the end he's just he's all in on what he needs to do. And just seeing how each character progresses throughout the story, every character has great character development. I really thought they did a great job with designing and orchestrating characters' paths throughout the story. There's so many callbacks, right? You have the classic moment of Victor where he's playing with his toy boat and he can't even outrun his toy boat because of whatever's wrong with him. And then, what is that, 2 or 3 episodes later, gets that, the magic leg, and he outruns the boats in the back, and it's just really beautifully told. And there's so many different moments like that. You have the shit with Singed. Singed is like he made out like a bandit. He's the only character that just got everything that he wanted. But he's really he is the orchestrator. He's the conductor of the entire story. He makes pretty much everything happen. He was the reason Shimmer got invented. He got Warwick and Vander. He helped Victor out. None of this shit would have happened if Singed was not a part of it. Half the characters became who they were because of Singed. He's really the underrated guy of the story. And every line between him and Victor is, like I think I said this before, it could be a tattoo. I mean, every single line was just a bar. Yeah, the character depth is bananas. I love it. And it's crazy to think that this is only like, 10, 12 characters out of 160 characters in the world of Arcane. And what do they call the world? Runeterra. And I'm pretty sure they confirmed that there's going to be more series now. And it's not going to be Arcane, right? I don't think. I think it's going to be other worlds like Demacia, Noxus, what was it? Ionia, which I don't know anything about. Right? I'm not too much into the league. I know of them. They kind of hinted at like Swain or Raum, or I don't know how to say his name. It's Raum, Rom. They hinted at some character with the Raven. So there's hints. There's stuff out there for stuff to come in the future. So I'm very much looking forward to that. My final con, I don't really want to end on a con, but I guess I am, is the epilogue. The final 7 minutes of the show. Everything after the Jace Victor stuff. The Jace Victor is my favorite story throughout the show. I absolutely love it. I think it has the best beginning to end, right? I love how it ended. It was, for me, the most impactful moment of the final episode that got that feeling in the back of my throat. I'm like, damn, don't make me cry. But that moment where Victor's like,
only you can show me this.
That hits. And they have the crazy visuals going along with it, with the orchestra playing behind it. It's just like magical. But everything after that, I don't know how I feel about. Right? First, you have Vi and Jinx and Jinx's apparent death. Right? There's a lot of information out there to suggest that Jinx is not dead. Right? I know there's the conspiracy theories out there, but I don't believe she's dead either, because there's certain scenes that they show, like with Kate looking at the air ducts and then the airship leaving. Like, it's very signifying that like Jinx is alive. They wouldn't show that otherwise, or at the very least they put that thought in our head. And they did it on purpose. But that whole scene with Vi and Jinx, just again, for me it didn't hit, because I thought Vi's interactions with the dead Vander and like her breaking down was just not in her character. I thought it was just a very weird moment for her. And then Jinx's line again didn't hit quite as hard for me. I was like it was fine. It just felt generic to me, compared to the rest of the show. It was still good. just not at the level that it's been telling the story for the rest of the whole show. And then I thought everything after that, where they're just trying to quickly catch us up on what is happening afterwards, I thought it was weird that they ended the dialogue with Kate and Vi. Like, they pretty much just ended it with, like, Vi saying, like, always be with you, babe. And that was the end of the show. I was just like, what? Why'd they end it there? I would have much rather had, like, a monologue of some sort with, like, Echo or even the voice of, like, Vander or Heimerdinger or whoever. I don't even care that they were dead. Just voicing over, like, this is the path we're going or whatever. Like, I'm not a writer, obviously, but I just felt like that was such a weird choice to end with Kate and Vi. I thought there could have been something else there. It was just weird to me. That's really all I have to say about that. Well, I'm sure you can tell I look different. I went back the next day and I tried to edit the video, and I don't know what happened to it. I don't know what happened to the end of it. It just disappeared, so I got to do it over. But now I'm going to rate the series. I'm going to rate the first season and then the second season. I think season 1, I would give a 9.4. I think it was just a little bit more consistent than season 2. I think season 2 had more highs, but also had more lows. And I can't say that about season 1. And I've said it a couple times already. I don't have any faults with season 1. I thought it was very well done, very well told. I think 9.4 represents it well. And then I think season 2 is a 9.3. It's just right underneath that. I think episodes 2.3 to 2.7 are like 11 out of 10. It's like the best, some of the best TV or best whatever I've ever seen. You have episodes 1 and 2 that are solid. It's starting to build back up the story. And then 8 and 9. 9 itself is a roller coaster for me. And then 8 was just like a episode. But overall, I think the series is probably, I would lean towards a 9.4. And I know that means nothing now because this is my first video. So it doesn't have much standing if I just say something's 9.4. It kind of coincides with all the other ratings, like from IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and whoever else is rating. I know Critical, I'm pretty sure, gave it a 95%. Or he gave season 1. I don't know if he actually rated season 2 or the whole overall thing. But, I would like in the future, after I review a bunch of things, when people click on this video and they see that I'm reviewing something, they'd be like, yep, I know it's going to be good because he likes it. I hope that's the point we get to. And I've said it a couple times already. It's a must-watch show. I think it's for just about anyone you could recommend it to. I would say watch up to episode 3. If you watch episode 3 and you don't like it, then I don't think the show's for you. I don't know how you watch episode 3 and be like, yeah, this shit sucks. I think it's one of the better episodes of the whole show. And it definitely does not go the way you think it's going to go. Well, with that being said, it's over. My Arcane review is over. It's way longer than I thought I was going to take. I said in the beginning that it wasn't going to be 3 hours long, and this is almost an hour. It's like 45 minutes long. So I apologize for that, but I couldn't help but rant about certain things that I liked and didn't like. The pros far outweigh the cons, too. The cons were so specific. So if you're looking at that, and if I started talking too much about it, I'm sorry. I hope I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I know, again, there's a million details. There's a million little sequences. There's probably characters that I even cover, like Loris and like some minor characters that do show up later on in season 2 that I didn't mention. But I honestly didn't have any issue with how they ended. Unfortunately, some characters just don't get the limelight, or their situation doesn't end the way you think it's going to end. And that's what ended up happening. So, as far as this channel, I don't know what you can expect from me. I do want to do more reviews. I had a lot of fun doing this. And now that I went back and started editing and saw that I didn't have my original outro, I've done a little bit of editing before. I tried doing Dan reaction videos, but the way I recorded it, it did not turn out well. The copyright was just killing me. So I was just like, I'm not going to upload this. But I do want to do reaction videos. I do want to do gaming videos and a whole bunch of other stuff. I wouldn't say I have it planned, but it's just things I want to do. Whether that happens or not, I have no idea. I do have a stream that's very inconsistent. I can't tell you the last time I streamed. It was like 6 months ago, but I do want to start picking that back up again. So I guess I'll link that. And as far as like the quality of this video, I don't know what it's gonna be. My camera is a C922, so it's pretty old. So I think this is the best it's gonna look for a while. As far as like the sound and everything, I could tell my pitch goes up and down, and I'm not the best at articulating what I want to say. Like I have all these great ideas or whatever in my head, and then I go and say it, and it just sounds like it doesn't sound smart. That's for sure. But hopefully you enjoyed. That's the main thing here. I'm just doing something that I want to do, and yeah, I guess you're along for the ride. So I guess that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Adios.